What's up, everybody? Anthony Rudolph here, and welcome back to Born to Create. So for those of you who don't know, Born to Create is a simple concept. If who or what you want to be doesn't exist, you go out there and you create it because you were born to create. Now today, I have a very, very special friend of mine, a special brother, a special man, Mr. Tony Morfin. My man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Anthony. Thank you for having me on. And I'm proud to be involved with this project. I think that it is definitely unique and gives people an opportunity to get their message out and at the same time learn from other entrepreneurs and people that you have on. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. The pleasure's all mine. So guys, I've been intrigued by Tony for years. I mean, we met some years ago. I think it was at a networking event, Riverside, right, Tony? Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
He stood up and he was talking about his business, talking about what he was doing, and talking about something that people just don't do anymore. And then coming to find out, our kids went to the exact same elementary school, and now fast 4 years later, my mother is teaching his son. So we are connected by more than just business. I feel that we are brothers. So let's hop right into it, man. I mean, let's jump into Tony Morfin, the man. I talked a little bit about where you came from, your background, and a little bit about some of the things that you've worked on up until this point.
Oh, wow. I don't know if there's a quick way of going about it, but I'll give you a brief background on myself. And, listening to some of the other podcasts that you have, I think that I share a lot of similarities to some of the other guests that you've had. And that is, I struggled, as a young person. My parents are immigrants, so the first job I ever had was picking peaches in Northern California at the age of 5.
Wow.
So it gives you a different perspective and mindset. First bed I ever owned was when I was 11 years old. So, I mean, I'm getting right to it. It's when you have that type of mindset and you've had those types of experiences in your life, the other things that happen along the way just don't seem as big a hurdle as most people would probably struggle with. I just see it as, what is the worst case scenario if I take this risk or if I do this business venture? I'll learn, but I'm never going to get to a point where I'm picking peaches off of the freeway, with your entire family. And I come from a big family. I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers. Brace yourself. I mean, that's big. You got to run to the kitchen table when it was time for dinner. Right. But having that type of experience gives you a completely new perspective on what it means to try to work for somebody or try to have your own business. And so that is a background on my own personal life. But, I went to university, worked for Fortune 500 company for a number of years. And so I've had that type of training, and it's really put me in a position where having very little business experience to a point where having a corporate training background gives you the confidence to say, well, listen, I've worked with really big companies and a lot of sharp people, and what they're doing is not rocket science. It's essentially organizing people and having a vision for that team and going out into the world and making it happen. And once you have that formula down, you get confidence in yourself that, okay, I know how they've been able to do it. Now I have a business or an idea, and I feel that I could go out and do it for myself. And so for the past 15 years, I've been an entrepreneur. My wife and I have a mortgage business, and so we've been running that business. But I'm also really into the online marketing space and seeing all of the changes that are taking place there. I feel that we're in an area, in a place where there's a mini gold rush for our attention. And I'm just trying to capitalize on the knowledge that I've gained over the past 20 plus years in business. So a lot to take in, but that's really where we can start.
Let's stop there and back up. So I want to dive into really where where you came from as far as picking peaches at the age of 5 years old, right? So that's something that you just don't see in this day and age, because of, I guess, of the technology and really how spoiled our society is, right? So how did you how did you come to a point where you were picking peaches at 5 years old, and then what had to change in your mind to say, you know what, I'm not going back to this. This was my beginnings. It shaped me. It molded me to who I am now. But it took me from being the boy I was to the man that I am. What was that mindset shift that helped you move from that to who you are now?
The immigrant experience, right? So when my parents came here, they didn't have much at all. And so, they had to work with their hands, and that's where their experience was. They were immigrants. And so, working in farms or with livestock, that was my father's kind of area of expertise. And so when they moved here, they didn't have any skill sets other than the fact that they were laborers.
Yeah.
And so back in this time, I guess it would have been around the 1980, they were looking to purchase their own first home. We actually had a home, and they said, hey, we're going to work our butts off and pay this off as quickly as possible. So they bought a home, and really in short period of time, they paid it off, because they said, all right, we got to just hustle and make it happen.
Right.
So when you have that type of experience where labor and providing an actual service with your back is what is known in your family history, there isn't a legacy of, hey, this is how money works, this is how business works. It was, hey, we're capable of providing a service, whether it was picking peaches or picking olives or sweeping up. You do what you have to do. But it really set a foundation in my life that hard work is not something that you should fear. And I've been fortunate that I haven't had to do a lot of those types of jobs as an adult, but it's really humbling. And at the same time, it's the mindset of anything is possible. If you could be picking peaches when you're 5 years old, to be in front of hundreds of executives talking about marketing or talking about their business, it's really a journey. It's a journey.
It's really for me, it's like work ethic, right? I mean, even though you're not picking peaches, your parents taught you the work ethic, right? It's like no matter what you do, you do it the best of your ability, and you work hard and you get it done, right? And that's what I see in you a lot. It's your work ethic.
I'll share with you another quick story. So that took place when I was 5, but my father was in the dairy business. So in northern San Diego County, he had a job at this really probably one of the largest dairies in California. And in this dairy, they had a dormitory for some of their workers. So we lived on premises in a house on this premise, but they had a dormitory with maybe about 25 to 30. I would say they were mostly undocumented guys that lived there on premises. So one of the days I was just walking around, and a guy approached me and said, hey, we really don't want to leave this ranch because of the fear of them getting picked up by maybe Border Patrol or something like that. But would your mom purchase some Budweiser for us at the local grocery store? And I was 9 years old, and I said, well, let me ask her. So I went and I approached my mom, and she's like, well, why are we going to just purchase some beer for them? And there's no, payoff. Yeah. I'm like, well, how much is the beer? And she goes, maybe $5. I'm like, well, why don't we charge them 10 or 12 bucks? And she said, yeah, well, we could do that. You could make a little extra money. And so before I knew it, I was selling them Budweiser 12 packs, Marlboro Red cigarettes, and did that for about 3 or 4 months. Wow. And then I found another opportunity. They needed their checks cashed. Wow. So I started doing check cashing for them. So on a bi-weekly basis, I would ask my father to pull out a certain amount of money, and as a 9, 10-year-old, walk up to these guys, have them sign over their check, and then charge them a fee for doing that.
You were
And
9 years old when you were doing this?
yeah,
Wow.
so
So,
it was my first real hustle where I understood that doing that was, that would actually make more money than my teenage sister that had a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I was 10 years old making more money than she was.
right. So you're an entrepreneur at 19 years old. You're an entrepreneur making things happen. I love
Yeah,
it.
most parents would not allow that for their kids.
Right.
But once again, when you have a mindset like, hey, if you ever go to Mexico, you could go into some of these smaller communities and people run little grocery or knickknack type of convenience stores out of their bottom floor. So it's something similar, I guess.
That's crazy. That's good to hear. I mean, the entrepreneur spirit was putting you when you were young, and you just I'm just watching it manifest. It's like super amazing. That's an amazing story. So so I can see how it took you from picking peaches at 5, buying Budweiser, buying marbles, cashing checks, and now you are in the mortgage industry. So talk to us about your family and your wife and me about your business. Well, one of your businesses, right? One of the businesses that actually help people achieve their dreams of homeownership. So talk to us about the business and your family a little
Well, I got into real estate myself, right? Maybe 6 months after I graduated from college, I bought one of my first properties. So I was always interested in real estate, and I was fortunate enough to buy, a couple properties early on, and before the bottom fell out of the real estate industry during the mid '90s. I moved to Austin, Texas, and I sold the properties that I had here in California and avoided that complete mess. And then in 2010, we moved back. So I always had an interest in real estate. And so my wife and I decided that we were going to get our real estate license. We had a friend that we had known that was in the mortgage business. And so we've been at it now for nearly a decade. And it is a relationship business. We recently had a customer that was like 5 people deep from the initial customer. So it was the father, and the father then told their neighbor, the neighbor then told their dentist, and so on and so forth until you get, but if you're doing a good job, and my wife, Lucia, handles most of the transaction, she is an excellent communicator. And I think that that's one of the biggest, hurdles when you're in a service like mortgage. You have to be able to communicate very clearly because you're talking to people about their finances. You got to be able to educate them in a way that, it doesn't, you got to be able to educate them because everybody has a scenario where, their credit might not be the best, or maybe they've had some difficulties in the past. Whatever the situation, it's just about communicating with them what they need to do and the steps they need to take to be in a better place.
Right.
But when we see that happen and people realize their dreams, from young couples or maybe, real estate investors, it's very gratifying. And so we're going to just keep at it. And so far it's been going fantastic.
Love it. So how do you do it? Because most people in our society are not living their dreams that long, doing things that they want to do, right? 95% of people are still stuck in a regular 9 to 5, being robots and going to a job they hate, waking up to a job they hate, going to bed to a job they hate, waking up to a life they hate, right? But you've seen to really create your own lifestyle by doing what you want to do, right? So how'd you do it? I mean, where did the mindset come from? The same. I mean, I know you've worked before. I know that, but you went to school, got educated. You went to a Fortune 500 company. You did the 9 to 5 grind, right? But you said, you know what? This is not for me. My family deserves better. A lot of people think that and say that, but you made it happen. Now, what clicked in you to make you realize that, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to achieve better. What made you do it and stick to it? Like, what was that mindset
Um, so I had my brother-in-law over here a couple of days ago for Christmas or for New Year, Christmas Eve. And we had a real conversation about that because, he works, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock to the evening. And there was a little bit of, how could I say it? Maybe because he had a couple beers in him, he decided to let me know that he didn't think it was fair. I was, coaching my kids' baseball team, soccer teams, and that, maybe I should put my efforts towards, the 9 to 5 type of thing.
Yeah.
Even though we have a real successful business, but my wife and I, we work from home.
Yeah.
And I think when you also have a spouse that is an entrepreneur at heart, like my wife, we just communicate what our goals are. Our goals are to have this type of income. Our goals are to take a family vacation every year. And then we put the plan in place to make that happen. And that's really difficult for couples to do, is that it's hard sometimes to have a discussion about finances.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to say, we have to reach this goal. How do we do it together? But when you're doing it as a team, and then things become easier. Yeah. Earlier we're having breakfast and she's like, oh, I've got this lead coming from this person. We need to reach out to these. So it's a constant discussion that doesn't happen normally through the 9 to 5 where we shut it off. We talk about it at any given time about what we're supposed to be doing. So when we have these types of discussions and you're on the same page about it, then you could create business opportunities while other people are, clocking in and clocking out, and that's it. It's about creating opportunities where people that aren't accustomed to being in a sales type of organization, when you work and your job is to go and, create or make a certain amount of widgets or provide a service, you don't see sales coming in and out. Yeah. But when you're running your own business and you go, hey, if we get this loan or we close this, it's going to be X amount of dollars. And you're constantly talking as a creator of opportunities as opposed to somebody that is just waiting for the next paycheck. Yeah. But I understand my brother-in-law's perspective because, when you work that hard, part of it is that, there is maybe a little bit of animosity, but he doesn't mean it in a bad way. But what he doesn't know is what it's holding him back. And the way that he communicates with my sister is holding him back. You have to be on the same page. And both of them, if they were given the tools and the desire to change their current circumstance, they can do it. But it requires them to then, once again, we use this term a lot, is change their mindset and be willing to take the steps. But people are fearful because they're accustomed to that, bi-weekly, monthly paycheck or whatever they're getting. That's guaranteed. There's no guarantee in my life other than the fact that if it's not working, I got to think about that problem in a new way and then find the solution. Yeah. Yeah. And once again, when you're picking peaches at 5 years old, the downside is minimal. Yeah. The upside can be anything that you want it to be.
Even that 9 to 5 weekly, bi-weekly, monthly check, that's not even guaranteed because you can be asked at any time. And I tell people often, it's like, you walk into Stater Brothers, you walk into the bank, you walk into any of these stores, you walk into McDonald's and you see that they now have kiosks, right? Now, these businesses are replacing humans. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, is that we're being replaced, right? So it's time for us to step up and start doing things for ourselves and for our family, for our legacy that will make us irreplaceable. And that starts with getting the fear of taking that leap out of your mind, because it's all fear, right? We're all fearing things that's not even a reality, right? We're creating that. So yeah, even that paycheck is not guaranteed, because it could be gone at any day. And if you don't have a savings, if you don't have a nest egg, then you're pretty much asked out, right? So now let's go into Uplift 22, right? Because that's a huge. I mean, we sat down and we talked about that concept. So I want you to share the concept of that, and then how that's growing to be a very, very, very important thing in our society.
Like I said earlier, when I worked in corporate America, I saw a company that had deep pockets be able to pull a lot of different levers in order to grow their business. And now they were B2B primarily, but the types of marketing that they did, they spent millions and millions of dollars. They were, they'd sponsor NASCAR and, do giveaways to their prospects and all kinds of products or marketing products that were very expensive, that were out of reach for the normal business person. But what I learned from them also was that when you have X amount of dollars to spend marketing, you could get creative.
Right.
And they did some creative things that really planted some seeds in my own mind, and saying on a smaller scale, people can start to get creative. And so when I lived in Austin, Texas, I started a video production SEO business, and that gave me an understanding of what small and medium-sized businesses face in marketing and growing their business. So that was the foundation that I had, and I did that for 3.5, 4 years almost.
So real quick, so just so we understand what we're talking about, so you went from picking peaches to selling, to buying beer, cigarettes, check cashing, corporate America, video production, right? Okay, so I just want you guys to see that this man is a true entrepreneur, right? It's like nothing from the age of 5, nothing that stopped him, and he's still going. But I just want to just make that quick point. But go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
I wasn't the best videographer, but we lived in Austin, and so Austin was full of artists, and also had University of Texas Film School. And so I recruited young and hungry filmmakers that I'm still friends with today, that went out to the community, shot these, short, engaging 2 to 3 minute videos for businesses. And I scaled this business throughout Central Texas, San Antonio, and Dallas, and had hundreds of subscribing businesses that we would host their videos, and also incorporate search engine optimization, SEO, to help them get higher Google and Yahoo rankings at the time. And so really learned a ton about really smaller business marketing, some medium to larger businesses, but the mom and pop business I was almost like the Oprah Winfrey, where I would sit there and have a discussion with them about their hurdles and their business. And I learned a ton. And once again, without having that experience, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing right now, which is Uplift 22.
Yeah. So Uplift, talk to us about it.
So Uplift, actually, I skipped an entire startup that I had previously before Uplift too.
I was waiting. I was waiting for that.
It was called Tee Sumo. So in 2015, I launched a startup called Tee Sumo, and that business was about leverage at the base of it. And I think that business in general is about leverage. You could leverage knowledge, you could leverage technology. What I was trying to do is get businesses to leverage what they already do. So if you have pizzas, leverage 10 pizzas and offer 10 of them for free to the community. And in exchange, you're going to get people's attention for those free pizzas. And so for a 2-year period that I ran Tee Sumo, we ended up giving out over 12,800 free items throughout our area of Southern California, everything from free pizzas to free mattresses, free dinners, free window tinting, free, you name it. There was hundreds of businesses got involved with this. But as business went on, there was obviously some hurdles, and that is the redemption rate, and there was issues. So you learn from that. Obviously, I raised some private capital from private investors, seed investment. It was Innovation of the Year for the city of Riverside, but we weren't able to scale it because something was hindering it. It just didn't have the right formula. So I shut it down in 2000, beginning of 2017, and said, all right, well, there's only so much runway and legs that you could put into a project, understanding that it's just all part of this journey and part of the experience. And you know, one of my buddies had told me, hey, I want to expand my window and door business out in the Inland Empire. Come help me out for a while. And so for the past year and several months, that's what I was doing. I was helping him, trying to learn a new industry, but that wasn't where my passion was. Ultimately, I had this understanding that the market does not have that isn't being filled by the market. And that's my new venture called Uplift22.
Okay.
Uplift22 is not, it is so different than what is currently being done in the world of marketing. And what we're doing with Uplift22 is we've created an online place where nonprofits, organizations, it could be the PTA, it could be mom trying to send her kid to the Little League World Series, can create a campaign and tell businesses, hey, we're willing to share your business's message with our community, but in exchange, we would like for you to sponsor our cause. Okay. And so that's what I tell businesses, is that most of your marketing is a distraction and interruption in people's lives. Yeah. We have to recognize, you know, very little amount is going to actually filter its way through. Yeah. And what we're doing with Uplift is allowing businesses to sponsor causes that are actually impacting people's lives. Right. People care about their local elementary school. Right. And they're willing to share their valuable attention with a sponsor of that elementary school if they're giving back. And that's what we're trying to do. We're connecting businesses that have a message that they want to share with the community, and we're connecting them with nonprofits, fundraising organizations, you name it. But those nonprofits have a community of supporters. Right. And we're saying, hey, these supporters really care about this cause. Yeah. If you want to connect with them and have their supporters acknowledge your business, right, here's the opportunity, here's the conduit to right, make it happen. Right. And that's really what I tell people all the time is our attention is a real currency. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why LeBron James makes $89 million a year, or Kylie Jenner is a billionaire and on the cover of Forbes magazine, or why Facebook, you know, generates $61 billion a year in revenue and is worth $700 billion. Yeah. It's because they've captured the most valuable currency of this digital age, which is our attention.
Right, right.
You know, 20 years ago, there wasn't, there wasn't any service or attention business in the top 5 biggest companies. And today, that's the case.
Yeah. I want you to really unpack that a little more, because I think that's a very, 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 very vital and valuable piece of information, that attention is currency. And I don't think most business owners or even people understand that. And if you can unpack that some more for us, and just, you know, why and how is attention so important, and what difference between 2019, 2020 versus, 1980, right? I mean, maybe there is no difference, but why is attention so important
now? That question is a great question, Anthony. And people have to understand that when you have people's attention, you have a power that didn't exist back in 1980. So we'll use the example like Kylie Jenner. She just sold a percentage of her makeup line called Kylie for $600 million. And that's just a percentage. She still, I think, is the majority stakeholder of this business. But because she has millions and millions of people that follow her on social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook and Snap, she can put any product in front of them. It doesn't have to be makeup. It can be a motorcycle. It could be anything. Instantly, she has created an ecosystem that allows her to leverage, once again, that word pops up, leverage her community of supporters that allows her to sell other people's products. Well, she got with the times and she created her own product and say, hey, if I'm going to create this much value and then I'm going to do it for myself. Yeah. And kudos to her. I don't always agree with the fact that, you know, there's not a lot of talent there, but you know, I'm not bashing her. She's doing her thing and she's taking advantage of the tools that we all have to make it happen for herself. So that's really the key is attention. When I use the word currency, that sometimes confuses people, but you know, it can be used in so many different ways. And that's really what I'm trying to do with Uplift22 is I am trying to unlock the value of our attention. Because right now you can really use attention to get entertained or to get information. Those are the two things that's the key. What we're doing at Uplift22 is saying, let's unlock the value of our attention so that we can use it to help, you know, the kids down the street in the PTA, or maybe to help get a local karate dojo sponsored. And so let's start to use it really in new ways instead of just through entertainment or information, which has been historically the way of using our attention.
That's amazing. I mean, you said something that really stood out when you said that, you know, Kylie is using the tools that we all have. We all have the same tools that Kylie has, is that she's choosing to use hers to get attention and grow her business versus there are consumers and creators, right? So most people out there, they consume the content on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, but the smart people like you use it to create versus consume, and then that builds big businesses, right? That's what Kylie is doing. That's what everybody's doing, and that's where the attention becomes the currency that you're talking about, which is amazing. So, you've been through a number of businesses, right? Success, and you've had failures. You've been through both. Why do you keep going? I mean, what's the point of going from business to business to business and not having the success that you want? Because I believe success is what you believe for yourself, right? So what things that you've done have not been successful in your eyes, right? I mean, 12,000 giveaways, I mean, that's amazing, right? So why do you keep going? What's the point of you going from business to business and trying to do something? What's the point?
What if the only business I'd ever learned was how to pick peaches?
Right.
I mean, we're here to get a little existential. We're here on this planet to create, really, and to be involved in our own personal journey. And I feel that it is not just the end of the day when you're signing a multi-million-dollar contract and somebody's acquiring your business. It's the journey to get there, right? Mm-hmm. It's like we don't listen to music so that we could hear the last note. Right. We listen to music because it takes us through a journey. It's up and it's down. And because I've had the time to really think about my own life experience, my own entrepreneurial journey, it has given me a perspective that this is part of the enjoyment of being an entrepreneur, is understanding that when I started my first startup in Austin, I had no experience in video production and all. Now I have at least a good solid foundation in that arena.
Mhm.
When I started my second startup, I had never raised capital from private investors, and here I am, less than 2 weeks into my new venture, and I've already had opportunities to raise much more money than I had from my first venture.
It's only been
So
2 weeks so far? That's amazing. 2 weeks. Okay.
yeah, and that is because I have a track record,
Yeah.
and also I have been down this road, and that's valuable
Yeah.
to investors.
Yeah.
And the vision that I have is also, and the experience has also connected me with people that are providing new opportunities for me. Just last week, I was speaking with the CFO of Moreno Valley, their economic development manager, and they were coming to me for advice on how to increase engagement within the community.
Yeah.
And what they discovered, and what I discovered, is that what they're doing with all the financial resources that they have is less impactful than what I'm doing on the private side.
Yeah.
And I am really trying to do their job in what I'm doing with Uplift22. And so we left it where we're now in discussions about how to collaborate to make this vision a complete reality.
Yeah.
And it's fitting that your podcast is Born to Create, because the creation doesn't happen just with the inception of an idea. The creation happens with the connections that you make, the discussions that you have, with the new ideas and that other people bring to the table, in your own life experience. It's a constantly ever evolving process.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I mean, and I can see how you're evolving. It's crazy that listen to you talk and listen to some of the things that you've done. You know, most people, their goal, the number one goal, is to get business and make money, right? And with that being your primary goal, it rarely happens. But I can see that that's not your goal, and really, it's like your goal is to provide a value, right? And then when providing a value, money will come. But your first goal is to provide value out there and help the community, help people achieve their goals, right? So you are servicing other people who have causes, right? And you're connecting people. And reminds me of Bill Gates when he said that people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world usually do, right? And with all due respect, I think you're one of the crazy ones. is that your mind, your vision, your motivation for change is so massive, and it's going to reach other people. And what you're doing is totally life changing and world changing, because no one's doing that. No one that I know that is doing that, who's thinking of others first, right? Your goal is others first, not the Morfins, but hey, what can I do to create a platform for other people to benefit from their business, to benefit from their causes, to benefit from what they want, and then I'll be the connector, right? To me, that's so amazing, and I personally applaud you, for having that mindset, of not thinking of yourself first. We need more of that, right? We need more of that in our society. So
I think that people are coming around to it. I think that there is a wave of understanding that just consuming and being a selfish type of person that's only thinking about your own gratification, it's empty. It's an empty feeling, in my opinion. And, when I didn't have much in my life, I always thought about, oh, wouldn't it be great if I had this? Wouldn't it be great if I can get to this point? And I thought of the destination, and that drove me to a point where when I was in my 20s and I had more financial freedom than my parents who were already retiring, more traveling, it gave me a perspective again and a mindset that if this is all there is, then I think it's a very shallow way to experience your life. And the most gratification I've had is when I see other people just excelling, other people experiencing new things, other people showing gratitude to, that's just the way that I'm programmed, I guess. I guess I could decide that, hey, I just need to start putting more money in my pocket and, start looking towards just, it's just not something that I'm passionate about, and I pursue my passions.
Yeah, it's happiness over money. You gotta be happy before you can make money. So what has also a question for you, but it's went blank. So here it is. What is the biggest thing you've learned from that 5-year-old picking peaches to the man right today? What's the biggest thing that you've learned as far as business?
You got to give value to get value, and value can come from any way. It could come simply through your effort. Sometimes even if you're going to come up short, if you give an effort, people respect that and acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a balance, and what's valuable to somebody might not be valuable to somebody else. But value can come in so many different ways. Yeah. And you're providing value to me right now. This conversation is providing value. Yeah. Might provide value to somebody else down the line, and that might help you. So it's just, we're all interconnected in this journey. Yeah. And I just feel that whatever you have to offer the marketplace, try to be as positive as you can while you're doing that. Give people an experience when they do business with you. And if you fail at something or something doesn't go right, it happens often. We're in business. We're dealing with technology. We're dealing with people. Yeah. Then own it. Own it. People accept that there's hurdles and hiccups that are going to come along the way. But if you own it and you take responsibility for whatever takes place, yeah, they're much more likely to be in your corner when things go well and be on your side into the future. Yeah,
yeah, man, you are a true creator. And you definitely bless us today. So there are two people watching right now, right? People. One is a person who is struggling. He or she wants to get out there, start their own business, and leave that 9 to 5. The second one is someone who's in business. They may have some success in business, whether it be value or whether it be financial. Talk to both for me, and really give us 3 power tips that can help us exceed or excel in our business and what we're doing. Just 3 quick tips, from the mind of the creator on business.
First, I would say have a vision. Mm-hmm. What's that cliche that I might have heard this from you? It's the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You could drive from California to New York, if it was dark, but you got to go for every 60 feet is the next part. So when you have a vision and it's clear in your mind and you start taking the steps to get there every day, write something down at the beginning of the day and say, hey, I want to have these 2 or 3 things completed today. And you got to start holding yourself accountable to those things. Sometimes that's difficult to do, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you don't have to clock in. Go ahead and hold yourself accountable. So the first is have the vision. Second is hold yourself accountable.
Right.
You know, tell other people around you to start holding you accountable. If you need that, then start there, right? And the third final thing is that don't give up when the hurdle is too big to overcome. Look at that problem through different perspective,
Yeah.
and start to look at it from this angle, look at it from that angle. And when you start looking at the big picture, your vision, and saying, oh, this is something that I wasn't expecting. How can you still bring value? Look at it from different ways. I think that that's been the key for me, is to not just throw up my arms and say, hey, you know, I gave it a shot, because that's just not the way that I roll. It's simply, that's a good problem. I haven't experienced that before. Maybe I don't have the answers. I could look to somebody else to help me find and identify those answers. I'm humble enough to know that I sometimes don't know. I don't know. And I got to get somebody else involved to help me.
Right.
And then I guess those would be the three things.
Yeah.
First is have the vision. Number two, make yourself accountable by either writing it down or doing something on a daily basis to make it happen. And third is, when you run into those hurdles, look at it from multiple different angles or get some help from somebody else. That's the way to, in my opinion, to achieve success, or at the very least, learn the most. And then with that learning comes more opportunities, comes a better appreciation for what you're doing.
Right. Amen. Amen. So just so clear. So you got, I'll take some notes. Have a vision, be accountable, and really don't give up. Those are three steps, because we're going to have hurdles, right? It's going to happen. And one thing that I tell people constantly is that, you know, everyone sets out to hit a home run in business, right? You know, they have this first venture, this first awesome idea, and they want this massive wall of China in one day, right? And it reminds me of a video I saw with Will Smith, and he talked about how his father had him and his brother build a brick wall over the summer. And they were saying, hey, you know, why can't we just do it all in one day? It's like, no, you lay one brick at a time, and eventually you have this massive wall. And most people, they want it today. I mean, of course we all want it today, but you know, we have to realize that it takes time to build. Awesome book called The Compound Effect with Darren Hardy. He talks about how we have to do the little small unsexy things every day in our business and life to build with a compound to build something massive, right? It's a compound effect. And most people don't want to do the unsexy things, right? They want to do the big things now. And it takes a while to build. It takes a while to build a big, massive wall that will stand the storms, right? You can build a flimsy hut, right? You can do that. But to build something that's going to withstand trials, tribulations, storms, it's going to take a while, right?
That's a great analogy, Anthony, because getting your hands dirty, picking peaches, you know, selling cigarettes and beer, not glamorous.
Right.
But had I not had that type of experience and that hardship, then I am almost 100% confident I wouldn't be in the place that I am today.
Yeah.
And I still have a journey to continue to go.
Yeah.
It's not ending today. One thing that you're talking about is feeding your mind with positive affirmations. I heard that story from Will Smith. I don't even know, you brought it up, and I went to my mental Rolodex and I've heard that story. And that book, I've heard of the book. I didn't know that story, but I've heard of that book. And for Christmas, you know, I was given books to read, and they were all about entrepreneurs and their journeys. And I constantly feed my mind understanding that other people have gone through a journey that is ended in failures, and some that have hit absolute home runs. But what seems to be the common thread with all of them is that they had to go through their own obstacles and hurdles.
Right.
And I feel that I'm just another person that is experiencing my own journey, but I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it. I'm conscious that, hey, this call is part of my journey.
Right.
And so gratitude, that's another thing. You got to have gratitude for what you have today, because truly, if you live constantly with the glass is half empty, then when times do get tough, it's just going to be too big of a barrier and a hurdle for you to overcome. Yeah. You have to be optimistic about the future.
Yeah, amen, amen to that. Well, that's true. So, in closing, how do we find you? I mean, where are you right now? What platforms?
You could find me by going to Uplift22. You could find me by my social media handles, Tony Morfin, and you could email me at Tony@uplift22.com. Number of ways to find me out there. I'm here to help and to share my own life experiences. If somebody feels that I've brought value to them, I feel that the universe has a way of giving that karma back. So if you're helping somebody, it's going to find its way back to you. So absolutely, get in touch with me, and if I could help any way, then I'd be glad to do that.
So Uplift22.com is the site. So Tony, man, you are a true creator, my brother, and thank you for blessing me, blessing us with your knowledge today. So guys, you've heard it from the man directly, and this show is about creating. So whatever you want to do, go out there and create it. It starts with the mindset. It starts with you knowing that you deserve it, because we can all read books. We can all talk to people, listen to podcasts, but we have to know we deserve it and have to go out there and work for it. So thank you for watching Born to Create, and we hope you guys have an amazing day. Tony, anything in closing before we go?
Be safe. Peace.
All right. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your holidays, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.
All right. See you guys.